Hey, what's up you guys? It's Nikki with Nikki Drafts. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to draft your very own skirt blocks using your own measurements in your own size. I don't want to get too crazy here. I want to jump right into the tutorial. So we're going to be making this block. Hopefully I figure out how to put images over top of videos. If I do figure it out, it's going to be right here. If not, it's going to be in the description. But I'm going to show you step by step how to do this. And I broke this down so it's super easy and simple. For sure you guys can follow along with me. So take a second, grab all your drafting supplies, and let's go. If you're new to this channel, I'm Nikki and I'm a professional fashion designer as well as a sewing and drafting instructor, and I upload videos multiple times a week, but definitely every week on sewing and drafting, and I'm here to teach you guys how to make your own clothes, so follow along with me and hit the subscribe button if you want to see my tutorials. One more very new and very exciting announcement. I've started a Facebook group called the Sewing and Drafting Collective. Link in the description. It's basically going to just be a community of creatives and a place where I'll post more references, more tutorials, more content for you guys. I'm there kind of hanging out during the day, answering questions, and you guys can also post your work, get feedback from each other. So I'm really just trying to build a community here of creative thinkers, of people who want to make their own clothes, so we can all just like hang out and improve and learn together. So check that out. That's the Sewing and Drafting Collective on Facebook. Link in the description. Come say hi. Hey you guys, so before we get started today, we're going to need a few measurements. So we're going to need our waist, hip, our hip to waist and waist to hip and waist to knee measurements. This is just basic measurements. I'm going to be uploading a tutorial on how to take these measurements, but these are our key measurements in order to make our skirt block. Remember to add 1 inch of ease to your waist and hip measurements after you take your measurements, or your block is going to be way too tight and it won't fit properly. Grab yourself a big sheet of paper and go ahead right down the middle, make a long vertical line. This is going to become our side seam later. At the top of the line, we're going to cross mark at 90 degrees, so 90-degree angle, and where that intersection is, you're going to label point A. Leave yourself a couple inches of space at the top of the page. It's really important that your lines are 90-degree angles or else your block is going to be off. Measuring down from point A, we're going to use our waist to knee measurement. Mine is 23 inches, which is a pretty standard measurement, but for reference, I am 5'7", so you guys are welcome to measure your own or take the average of about 22 to 23 inches. Now from point A, we're going to measure down our waist to hip. Mine is 7.5, and again, that's pretty average, but it might be different depending on if you're petite or more curvy. The curvier you are, the bigger that measurement's going to be, but the best way to figure that out is to measure yourself. We're going to square out to the right and left from point C, so again, making sure that's nice and 90 degrees. Now you want to measure left from A 1/4 of your total hip measurement. This is going to become point D. Square down from D all the way to your knee line. This new line we're drawing is going to become our center back of our skirt block. Where our center back intersects with our hip line, we're going to label point E like Edward. Where the center back crosses the knee line, we're going to label point F like Frank. Now moving right from point A, we're going to measure our quarter hip measurement, and this is going to become point H. Square down from H at 90 degrees until it crosses the hip and the knee line. This is going to become our new center front. Where the hip line crosses the center front, we're going to label I. And where the knee line crosses the center front, we're going to label J. To avoid confusion, I like to label my block, so I'll be labeling our center front lines, our center back lines, side seam, and hip. It's really important that we know what all these things are and we label them clearly so that when we go to trace these off, we're not confused and we're tracing the correct lines. To review, our E to I line is our hip, our D to H line is our waist, and down at the bottom, our F to J line becomes the knee. Our A to B line is our side seam, and then the remainders are our center front and center back. This will now create the front and back skirt block. Measuring from point D, I'm going to use my quarter waist plus 1 inch and 3/4 for my dart intake. Our back darts are slightly bigger than the front. This point we're finding is point K, and this will be the new waist side seam. Measuring back from point D, I'm going to go 3 inches over to find my dart placement. You can put this wherever you like. I think that somewhere in the middle is nice and balanced. This becomes point L. Then from there, you want to measure your dart intake. My dart intake on the back is 1 3/4 inches. This is going to be the width of our dart, and this space in between becomes our dart mouth or dart intake. Now we have to find the front darts. So measuring in from point H, I'm going to do my front waist plus my dart intake. I'm only adding 1 inch on the front for darts. And again, measuring 3 inches in from H, I'm going to find my dart position line. This is point N, and then 1 inch over for my dart intake. So this will now become the space for my dart as well. The front darts are slightly smaller than the back. It was at this moment that I realized that I used the wrong measurements, and I corrected them as follows. When I marked my back darts, I accidentally used the front measurements, so I went ahead and corrected that for my dart intake and my position for K. Take your French curve and blending up from C to K, and then from C to M, we're going to create a gentle hip line curve that's going to help formulate the rest of our side seam. Extend both side seams up past the waistline. Starting with our back dart, we're going to divide it in half. So for mine, that's going to be 3/4 inch. And then we're going to square down for 5.5 inches. Our back dart is going to be bigger than our front dart because we have a bum in the back of our body, hopefully. Now from the bottom for our dart end, we're going to connect our dart legs, drawing them in, and this is going to finish off our dart. For the front dart, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to divide it in half and measure 3.5 inches down. The front dart is shorter because we don't have a bum and we don't need the extra curve. I'm going to go ahead and mark our dart end and draw in our dart legs for the front waist dart as well. Now the next step is to fold and true all our waist darts, which I've already done a video on some dart manipulation. We went over folding and truing the darts, so if you guys want to see that and the details on how to properly true your darts, I'm going to link that here for you, so you can go ahead, watch that video, and come right on back. It's really important that we are checking our darts and we're smoothing our waistline out so that we don't have any weird bumps and like dimples in the waist. And we're going to treat our side seam just like a dart. So I'm going to fold along one of my side seams, and then I'm going to fold at the end around point C where my side seams are meeting up. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow me to check if these waistlines are meeting nicely. So right now we aren't going to have a nice fit if we continue like this. Like the side seam will dip. So as you can see, when we sew these together, it creates a dimple at the side seam. So you can correct that by folding it closed as if you would a dart. And then you just want to blend it with the French curve. So this is how I fix my side seams and walk the pattern, just to make sure all the shaping is correct before I even cut it out. And this will prevent it from lowering on the side seam when you're wearing it. It's so important that we're checking everything before we cut this out and just start sewing. This is going to save you so much time. Next step, we want to trace these off. We never want to cut our original draft in case we want to go back and make more corrections. So I'm grabbing some fresh paper and I'm going to trace out my center front, knee line, side seam, and my hip. And this is going to allow me to create a prototype. I'm going to be sewing this up, and if you guys want to see that, I have another video where I sew up the blocks and show you guys how to correct the fit and alter the pattern. So we have to prep this to make a prototype now. I'm going to be adding 1/2 inch of seam allowance on my side seams and my center back. We'll be leaving an opening at the center back for us to get in and out of it. And I'm going to cut my center front on fold. Now, when I add my grain lines, just like this, I always make them parallel to my center front and center back. So my center back, I have a regular grain line and I'm indicating cut 2. And my center front, I'm going to be putting grain line for on fold, and I'm just going to cut 1 because I don't need extra seams there. If you don't add your seam allowance, then your block's going to be much too tight and you won't have an accurate fit. All done and ready to cut out and make a sample, so stay tuned for that video. See, that wasn't too hard. I'd love to see how you guys did. Send me pictures of your drafts, post your questions. I'm here to answer. I'm happy to see. And stay tuned for the video, which I'm again probably going to link here, hopefully, on how to sew these skirts together and fit them and correct common issues. So that's the next video coming up. Stay tuned. If it's already done, if you're watching from the future, it'll be here. Ciao for now.